Think about sitting in your house, one of those classic summer storms comes through, the trees all wave about, they bash into the power lines or the transformer and the lights go out. Apart from some choice words you may utter, the next thing you'll likely do is wait for the power crew to jump in the truck and get your electricity reconnected. Well, today the union representing those workers is warning you could be waiting even longer after April, thanks to cuts being made to their workforce. In all, the state government cutting a total of $800 million to Energy Queensland. Stuart Traill is the Assistant Secretary of the Electrical Trades Union. Stuart, you say in all, as part of this cost cutting, you'll lose effectively 150 workers. They're the sort of people who go out in the heat, in the wind, in the storms, after the storms, and get the power back on.
Exactly right. Unfortunately, this week, during a meeting with Energy Queensland representatives, they advised us that there would be a reduction in the contracted hours by 50%. Our question was how many jobs will this likely directly impact on, and they've said up to 150. So these are workers employed from Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, Rockhampton, Maryborough, all the way down to Brisbane, that we rely on to supplement our internal Energy Queensland workforce, particularly when we get hit by the major storms, whether it's cyclones in far north Queensland, Cyclone Alfred that hit the southeast, whether it's the floods in towns in David Crisafulli's own hometown of Ingham. We use contractors to supplement those workforce, those internal workers, and unfortunately, under this proposal, as a result of the cuts, there's up to 150 of our members on the front line facing the loss of their jobs.
These aren't full-time workers, as you say. These are the contractors that pick up the slack after these big events. How often do we rely on these people, Stuart?
Well, these have been, over the last 10 years, full-time contractors. They give both Energex and Ergon a buffer and gives them the flexibility when they have major projects or major maintenance programs where they can send these contractors. So they've been working full-time. But every time we have a major storm event, the organisation reaches out to us to engage those contractors, particularly once we get the vegetation cleared and then start to get our internal lineys to understand the damage. Then they start bringing in the contractors to supplement that workforce. And what we are seeing is major storm events right across this state, increasing in not only frequency, but also severity. So these contractors are used consistently every year over the last few years.
Can you say what impact that would have on someone listening today who lives in a leafy suburb? Yep. They listen to 612 ABC Radio Brisbane. We keep them up to date and we say this many houses are without power. And then we have Danny Donaldson on from Energex and he says we're getting the crews out there, and an hour later he says we've got 100 back online, 200 back online. How will that process be affected if the contractors, who you say aren't just used occasionally, they're used full-time, if those 150 full-time equivalent contractors aren't there in southeast Queensland?
The Queensland public, unfortunately, are going to have to get used to extended power outages in the state under this government and under these proposals. You cannot take 150 frontline workers, and we see the politicians getting the nice photos when with our members after they've done an amazing job. We see them patting them on the back, but then making decisions in boardrooms to sack them. So 150 jobs less is going to see significantly extended outages. Only last weekend we had people out in the western area of Brisbane, places like Gatton and the Plainlands, when high load on those really hot days, were without power for 2 days. 2 days because we did not have enough internal resources, let alone with less contractors. So this is a real worrying time. We haven't seen this for the last 10 years, but under this government, we're seeing significant cuts to funding right across the whole of the electricity industry.
You're listening to Stuart Traill, the Electrical Trades Union Assistant Secretary, went into a meeting and told there'll be a 50% reduction in contract hours for the folks who go and reconnect the power who happen to be on contracts. He was told it equates to 150 staff. Energy Queensland, of course, is a 100% Queensland government-owned corporation. They service customers through Energex, through Ergon Energy in our part of the world. They've got about 9,000 employees. And here's the kicker: 210,000 kilometres of power lines, overhead lines, underground lines, right around the state of Queensland. Now, Stuart, it's not just the contractors, and you've got to wonder if they're full-time all the time. Why on earth they're contractors if you need them all the time? But that's for another day. But I'm told that this will also affect full-time regular crews. They're also being hit with cost cutting.
Oh, there's significant cost cuts right across the industry since the LNP government have come through and got rid of a number of directors on the Energy Queensland board, people with significant industry experience. We've seen people like Michael Hart, the ex-member member for Burleigh, now put on the board. There is zero engagement with the workers. They've made a decision under the direction of the government to cut that $800 million through until 2030. That's going to take a hell of a lot of work. Whilst I've got confidence that Energy Queensland management will still work with us, there's still going to be a hell of a lot of impacts on the take-home pay of a lot of the internal employees. There's structures that have been created within Energy Queensland that are bloated. There is far too many general managers that are on the hundreds of thousands of dollars with not too many people reporting to them that need to be cleaned out. And that's what we'll be talking to Energy Queensland management about and saying, well, we're happy to work with you on efficiencies, but as soon as you start cutting maintenance programs that impact on the safety and the reliability of the network, we're going to have issues with you. And as soon as you start cutting staff, we're also going to have issues because of all the things that we've spoken about today. So worrying times for the people of Queensland under this government as a government-owned corporation. And
would it be fair to say, we've heard anecdotally that some full-time workers have been told, OK, the cost cutting will hit you in that you won't do a 10-day fortnight, you'll do a 9-day fortnight. So you'll take a 10% hit to your pay and that's how we'll pass on the cost cutting.
That's another one of their proposals at this stage that they've thrown on the table. I really can't understand when the Queensland government is telling Energy Queensland that they need to reduce the connection timeframes for developers or customers that have just built a house, developers, high-rises, Olympics infrastructure. We have the fastest growing state as far as population go. The government's telling us to reduce the connection timeframes, which means more work, but then they're telling those workers that do that vital work that they're going to be doing 10% less work available over a fortnight. So the numbers don't stack up.
And is it the case that some of your members have heard in recent days that if they go to that 9-day fortnight, they're doing their sums at home and they're losing up to $20,000 per annum in salary, just like that, bang?
Well, there's a percentage loading that's applied for people that go from a 9-day fortnight to a 10-day fortnight. So that depends on their base salary as far as how much it will cost, but it will cost people potentially tens of thousands of dollars, not only in their take-home pay, but also in their superannuation. So you're talking about people with defined benefit that are potentially going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. So previous governments, state governments that have attempted to try this without engaging with unions, without engaging with the workers, the previous LNP government, which David Christofouli, Jared Blay, were all part of. We're all part of that privatisation agenda, and they saw what we can do as a union. When we mobilise, when we organise and get active through the Not for Sale campaign that was recognised widely, that had a major influence on the 2015 election result. So they can do this at their own peril is the message from us.
Stuart Traill's the ETU Assistant State Secretary. We did request an interview with the Queensland Energy Minister, David Janetsky. As I say, Energy Queensland is a 100% Queensland government-owned corporation. he was unavailable. We also approached Energy Queensland. We're told no one was available, but they did give us this statement, Stuart, emphasising the need to look for financial efficiencies, deliver electricity at the lowest cost, keep the pressure off the cost of power while ensuring safety and our services to the community are never compromised. Being a company owned by all Queenslanders, we'll continue to prioritise the use of our own staff while using contractors to manage peaks in work. Before I let you go, Stuart, is there a risk that the contractors will take their expertise, take their ABNs and just head over the border into New South Wales and set up shop there?
Sadly, those conversations are already occurring between the contractors and our members. There's already been discussions whether or not people are prepared to go to New South Wales and Victoria. If they do go, we're not going to have those workers for storm response, and it makes it really hard to get them back when we do need them, because this is an ageing network. Like Energy Queensland can put out a nice motherhood statement like that, but unless they keep up the maintenance we've been seeing to replace ageing conductors, which there's a whole heap of conductors in the state you can't even work on live, because if our members touch it, it's likely to break. There's cross arms. We had stays that hold poles vertically. One of those break up in the Wide Bay area a number of years ago, which led to a pineapple farmer being killed. So unfortunately, these corporate room decisions have massive impacts on the people of Queensland. So the people of Queensland need to start speaking up, talking to their local members of parliament and letting them know that the services that they grow to expect and deserve as electricity prices go up continue to be maintained, and frontline jobs should not be cut.
And meanwhile, are your members on the receiving end of the implications of all this from angry customers?
Absolutely. And what we are seeing is an increasing amount of angry customers. Threats of physical violence and actual physical violence is on the rise. Energy Queensland are starting to run a campaign now about there's no excuse for violence, and it's our members, unfortunately, on the front line. It's not their fault when they're out there in these stinking hot conditions that Queensland delivers up after these storm events, copping the abuse of discontented customers that should be laying the blame at the members of parliament and the managers that are making these decisions.
Stuart Traill, ETU Assistant State Secretary, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Stuart Traill there on the line.